Mobbing is when you have a group of programmers working together to solve a problem.
The purpose behind it is to get all those brains into one place. So to bring together the expertise required to do a ticket, to do a piece of work, rather than having those sort of costly communication handoffs where you have to send an email and wait for someone.
That the engineers would collaborate and knowledge share and work together a lot more, as opposed to pivoting around the tech lead for knowledge share. I wanted them to self-organize. So that's my expectations. My concerns were that they wouldn't do that. So okay, what's two sides of the same thing?
You would see, on the whole, not necessarily every single time, but on the whole, you would see quality and speed increase, which I am definitely seeing. It works slightly differently with different groups of people who are mobbing. So it's just getting people to be confident enough to, like, you know, type a mistake in front of people. I've done it myself. You hold back because you're conscious of what someone else is thinking of what you're typing. It's not a case of people judging you.
Okay. And you find that people do worry about that?
Definitely. I don't think they realise that they're worrying about it, but it's just a sort of a second nature thing you need to install in people, which says it's fine to just write something that's a bit bad and you just all work on it. It's yeah.
Neutral before and now optimistic. Yeah, I do think it works and I quite enjoy it, especially at the moment where you actually get to talk to people.
It's awesome.
Well, 100%, I would say. I don't like to do any development that isn't mobbing.
It was a sort of a real opportunity to try it. We were trying it a little bit, but I mean, I don't know whether we would have ended up sort of sitting around the same computer. But I think if we were sitting in the office, it would be far too easy for people to sort of turn their backs to people and just end up working at their own computers.
What we do is we just have an ongoing call all day. It doesn't matter whether we're mobbing or not, we just stay on the call. And that made it so much more easy for everyone to sort of accept being in a group environment all the time, that then the mobbing sessions were a lot easier. So it only took about a week for us to get quite used to the concept of doing it remotely. And I think that suggestion of not, even when you're not mobbing, staying engaged on we were doing it using like a video channel that was open all day, was the easiest way to get people over that sort of feeling like they had to join a call, rather than it being a call and we're just having a chat about a technical thing now, and that's the natural way to do it.
So yeah, we have done. We'll also maybe grab, say, I don't want to say names, like the VA, the PO, if we have questions again, saying we've been doing this, we've hit this, we can do it different ways, but they'll have implications. So we'll get them in, show them what we've coded already. So that's quite handy, because you can have code that's literally just on your machine. You don't need to put it into an environment, run tests or anything. You can just show them literally what we've just typed. Say, do you like this? Yay or nay? It's really quick feedback loop from that.
And actually, to be honest, on the previous project I was on, yes, the client would come on, because there were lots of questions we could just ask, and she would just answer them instantly.
From 15 minutes to a couple of hours.
You know, we're working all the time on all the code, all the changes we make, we're building and releasing. So I mean, it's zero time. I mean, everything we do, once we get to a point where it works, it's committed. So we're talking, you know, a task might take maybe half an hour to an hour max, I would have said. Quicker
than if you were working by yourself on it, because then you've got to tie it back into all the other releaseable changes that other people are making and make sure that it works as a whole releaseable change.
My team were able to basically turn around 2 new pieces of functionality which was really cool. So it can be half a week to get some new functionality. If it's a bug, say, that we're fixing, it could be as little as a couple of hours, including testing and rerunning things.
If it goes longer than a day without making a releasable change, then something's gone wrong.
Definitely beneficial. You just watch problems sort of dissolve in front of you.
It is positive. It is a good thing, because we can deliver things quicker. So individual things get out the door quicker.
Okay.
So the customer sees changes coming through quicker. There are less communication cycles. When you're not mobbing and you need to get peer reviews, the traditional way, you would go around and badger someone. You're going to interrupt them. They may not be ready for you. You kind of got your thoughts in your head. You've got to go and find this person over here who's got their own thoughts in their head. You've got to interrupt them, disturb them, put them in your context, explain everything that was going through your head, then try and convince them, and they may not know all the things. They say, oh, they've got to look, they've got to do some Googling as well. And you're, at all that time, you're in this kind of holding pattern. And that's not healthy. So you never have that, because you're always in the same context. You are actually doing less work, so it's easier because you're not always doing things, but you are actually delivering faster as a group because you're doing less wasted cycles. There's lots of energy into negotiating with other people, trying to persuade them. Oh, they say that's not how they would have done it, and let's go and correct it. So you don't have those correction cycles, which is just unnecessary work.
Okay.
And then the knowledge share, if there's a message being delivered or decided, you decide as a group, it is done. Let's move forward on that bet. You don't have to go and update anyone else, decision to be made. And if someone needs to get trained on a certain area, they just follow the mob and they are trained as we go through. And even as a driver, they can do the things, even with zero knowledge in a technology. As a driver, you can do things whilst being navigated by other people. So it just, doesn't need these other training knowledge share cycles around the side, which were just extra communication overheads. So that all leads to efficiency. So for less work, you actually get more output.
Net beneficial. Absolutely.
Okay. And why?
Quality. You can achieve the same. Well, you can achieve the same thing. You can, on the face of it, achieve the same thing from a customer perspective. But one of the things that I think it does is it makes things a bit faster, a bit smoother, and it increases quality because you're, all four of you, three of you, whatever it is, are involved in the decision process and coming to the same conclusions, rather than seeing something at the end of a 2-day, 3-day, 1-week cycle, whatever it might be, and not understanding how you got to that point.
It's beneficial to engineers because it focuses you on a single objective. It also spreads knowledge, but it's beneficial for the customer because every change they get has been through multiple eyes as a quality control, and because of the fact that by focusing on single objectives, as long as your work is organized in that way so that you're working towards a single goal, then you're always moving towards the goal that the customers asked for. So rather than spreading out the effort and maybe not quite getting there, you always know that we're incrementally moving towards the final goal.
I forgot what it's like to be in a position where it's uncomfortable to tell someone you don't know something. And when we put a load of people in the position where they had to expose their work, some people reacted quite badly to that.
It definitely helps you understand like your teammates' thought processes and what things they understand well and what kind of choices they would make, which you don't necessarily understand just from doing sort of code reviews and things. And that also sort of challenges you and sort of allows you to say, oh, okay, they tend to think about this like that. Is that how I think about them? Do I think about them differently? There's lots of little interactions like that sort of help you learn and sort of improve as a team.
I was amazed at how easy it was to onboard people into a mob remotely. During COVID-19, we have put together teams and brought people on totally remotely. And then before that, I've only believed you could do it face to face, sitting down with someone, you know, showing them in a building, getting them building passes, all this rigmarole. I think I've probably onboarded 10 people into mobs now who I have not met face to face. And they're up and coding within a day. They're in the cycle. And I just say hello, do the niceties, explain the project, and then they join the mob and they learn there and they're connected. So the onboarding is, I mean, if I had thought about it, I wouldn't have been surprised, but that was something I hadn't really thought of as a benefit. It just does feel more positive. There's less alienation. There's less people who get stuck. So strong coders are going to be able to code whatever environment, and they'll just get on with things. And but I would say with people who are less confident or juniors, they could easily get kind of pushed aside and not brought along. Mobbing just treats all people as equals and lifts everyone up to a common level. So that just makes people feel more inclusive. I think you get more value out of everyone, because even if someone's quieter or less assertive, they still have a valid viewpoint. So it kind of rises their viewpoint out a bit more, gives them a chance of voice where maybe if they, yeah. So in that sense, I think it just lifts people up more.
With any team that I've mobbed with, I found that generally it helps morale.
I don't think I would have got to know anyone nearly as well working from home if I hadn't been on calls all day. So
I think, again, it really depends on who's going to be winding up on the mob. What I would not like to see is if there were people who were very, very siloed or uncomfortable or insecure. And when I say insecure, I mean not necessarily like imposter syndrome or people trying their best. I mean insecure as in people covering their work, kind of insecure, trying to pretend they know when they don't. I would not like them to be in a mob with somebody who had good intentions and was outcome driven, because I think that person would become very upset very quickly. They would not be able to thrive.
it sort of flows around the problem rather than it being it's not really a defined tool. It just turns into what it needs to be.
Your challenge is, how do you make that a normal part of people's day? What you don't want is people working against it, right? You don't want everyone is on a Zoom call, one person's sharing, one person's just doing the work, and the other people are just sort of sitting there going, ugh, wish I was doing my own work. Why am I just watching Dave do the work? I think what you need to do is make sure everyone's having a good experience with that. Now, how do you make people have a good experience with something?
You're not constantly coming together, having a meeting, deciding on some stuff, and then diverging, and then having to reconverge and diverge again and reconverge. You're just all on the same path.
It always seemed to be impossible to do mobbing in that way. Peer programming you can, because it only requires 2 people, and so you can do it on a video call, but the technology wasn't really there to do mobbing as a multiple activity until quite recently, and I sort of always thought of it as something that only highly technologically advanced companies might be able to do with specialist equipment. So I was quite surprised when I joined Worth to find that it was fairly possible with current equipment. I
definitely like to evolve the process into something where somebody can easily join and depart. So if, for example, there is somebody on the other side of the company who isn't exposed to the code base or anything else, I'd love to find a role that enables them to join, learn without being disruptive, or needing people to explain, get exposed, try something, and walk away, potentially never coming back, but without having had a negative impact. That would be what I'd love mobbing to evolve into, where kind of thought from someone can be more of a commodity where it can be added and removed from a mob. I don't know how possible that is, but that's something I'd like to try.